Canada?
Yeah. Elbows up.
Ah.
Um,
Um.
ah,
Um. Ah.
um,
Um.
climate change, did that.
Are you sure? This is how we fix Canada?
Yeah. Elbows up.
Ah.
Um,
Um.
ah,
Ah.
um,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
on the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us on this April the 29th, 2025, here in Greater Sudbury, Ontario, Canada, world, as we are first show after the election, the federal election last night. Did you pay attention to the election last night? Get ready for that, because you're going to be hearing a lot of it from our new Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. I'm 2.0. I mean, Mark Carney, our new Prime Minister, actually elected now. So not only our Prime Minister of 1 month not elected, but now the great people of Canada have elected Mark Carney. They actually went out and actually elected him. They wanted him to be their prime minister. So we are going to get what we deserve as a country. And we'll show that today on the show. And it's interesting but the people who didn't actually vote him in, because there are some Canadians who didn't, it's a minority government, will get something too. Now, they're not going to get what they deserve, but they're going to get the same thing that the people who voted him in, well, they deserve it. They voted the guy in, right? So it's just going to be payback for them for putting him in. I will show that. So if you're like, oh, come on, what do you mean? We'll show you. We've been showing you already, but because you're in this fog of wearing your jersey and just going to vote for, your party, and no matter what anyone said to you, you just blew it off and you're just going to go anyway. So now that your guy's in and all the dust is settled and the fog's away, now let's see what's actually there. So now you could actually listen instead of thinking it's just somebody saying the opposite just because they want to say the opposite. They're actually saying facts. So we're going to say the facts of what you can expect over the next 4 years or so, or however long now, because there's a minority government. There could be an election next year for all we know. There could be an election next month. That's the whole thing. However, we're going to see what we're going to get. We're going to see what our new prime minister has been saying out loud, has been writing in his book, telling you what he wants to do, and you just not listening to it because you just didn't want to be wrong in the first place of why you voted in the very same person who gave us the policies and the things we had to put up with for the last 10 years. So you're like, oh no, there's a new person. We got to get him in because I can't admit that I put that other guy in there and caused all this havoc to the country over the last 10 years. So I don't know what the heck people think, but they're just not thinking, if you are voting in somebody who wants to get rid of cars by the year 2025, like gas-powered cars, and wants to turn our economy into a carbon credit system and you get points instead of dollars, and it's all based on your carbon footprint. And if you've eaten too much meat one week and you go to the grocery store, the cashier won't allow you to buy any more meat, things like that. If that's really what you want, which I know it's not, which I think you just thought was conspiracy theories, that's what this particular prime minister has said out loud and wrote in his book. He wrote it in his book. He called it values. Those are his values. And now they're yours. And now you're going to get it. I'm going to get it too, but I guess it's just some kind of vindication that I just said, told you so beforehand. You voted for it, so here you go. It's like a bunch of people in the Titanic looking at that iceberg going, let's go for it. Let's hit it. And everyone else is like, I don't think that's a good idea. And they're like, no, we're going to go for it. And they got the wheel, right? And they're like, no, everybody, hey, let's have a vote here. Let's get that guy away from the wheel. He said he wants to run right into that iceberg. And people are like, come on, he wouldn't say that. No, he said it. Here's a video of him saying it. I recorded him saying it. He wants to run right into that iceberg with this boat. And no, come on. And you're telling it, you're showing them. That's AI video. That's an AI video. You made that up. No, I didn't. That's him. And then he actually tells you it's good for us to run into the iceberg. And people are like, yeah, I think it's good to run into an iceberg. I don't know. I just like that guy for some reason. And they all vote to run into the iceberg. That's where we're at. And we're all in the Titanic. Anyways, it's kind of funny to some degree. So I started the video, our live stream off today with a kind of a humorous video. And let's just keep the humor coming. I guess we got to laugh. Either you laugh or you cry. So I'd prefer to laugh. Anyways, we'll get to your comments, news headlines. We know what we're going to be talking about today, obviously. And looking forward to it. Looking forward to this show with all y'all. Thanks for being on. We'll start off with a little bit of weather, which is just about as goes in line with the results of the election as far as I'm concerned. In so many ways, I got a sewer backup in my kitchen, and it's kind of indicative of what's going on with our election last night. It's got no matter what, you got the crap coming in, no matter what you do, because of things you can't control, like the weather. The water table's up way too high, and our drainage pipe is just it's just the water table's too high, so we got stuff coming up in our kitchen. So yeah, and now it's going to rain today and into the morning tomorrow, which isn't going to help anything. So it's pretty much similar to the way I feel about the way the elections went in this country. That's just my own opinion. Again, we're just going to have fun with it. Whatever. Just laugh about it. Who cares? We're just going to do what we can with what we got. We'll be back right after the weather with news, headlines, your comments, and more. Right after this. And as usual, weather brought to you by Voyager Tire at the intersection of Falconbridge, Kingsway, and 2nd Avenue. Currently, it's 11 degrees. It's mostly cloudy. We can expect today showers with a risk of thunderstorms and wind gusting to 60 kilometers per hour, high of 17. Tonight, cloudy, 40% chance of rain showers or flurries this evening. And the low will be -5 tonight. So it's getting very cold tonight with the wind chill -11 overnight. Yes, that's what it's going to be. -5 and the wind chill -11 overnight. I said it. It's true. Wednesday, cloudy, clearing late in the morning, high of 8. So it's kind of cool. Wind chill -9 in the morning as the sun tries to make its way out. But clearing in the rest of the day. So 8 is your high for tomorrow, clearing after the morning. And then Thursday, more clouds. And then Friday, another chance of showers. So 60% chance of showers with a high of 9. Then we get to have a mix of sun and cloud for the weekend. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 10 degrees, 15 degrees, 17 degrees. And look at your satellite, you can see with that rain, that green activity right over Sault Ste. Marie, making its way towards us with some more rain. Might have got here by now because this was taken about an hour and a half ago. And then that more rain coming through where Duluth is in Minnesota kind of thing, making its way towards us. That's where we're going to get that on Friday. That is your Sudbury weather. It is brought to you by Voyager Tire, and we will be back with your comments and news headlines right after this. All right. And news headlines taken from our news aggregator, Sudbury.news. You can see the headline, the main headline. Mark Carney's Liberals win minority. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has lost his seat. And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was on track to lose his seat. When the last ballots were being counted. I saw that, and I don't think that ended up being the case by the end of the day. And again, I could be wrong here. I couldn't stay up all night and analyze every single thing going on with the election. I saw where it was going. However, CTV did predict a Liberal win really early on. I was like, really? You guys are going to do that? And then later, it almost looked like the Conservatives could have won it. It was like neck and neck. And I don't know how they could have predicted a win so early on like that. And they were like going, oh, it could be a majority. The question is now majority or minority. And then it was just neck and neck. It was very close. So we'll have to see how things are going to be there. Let's see some of your comments. I know all you guys are probably really happy with the results last night. Good morning, Northern Hillbilly. Hopefully you're having a good morning. Good morning, Nancy. Whomever voted Liberals need to pray because things are going to hit the fan. Yeah, no, I don't know. They'll just keep listening to the mainstream media who now are so excited because the gravy train keeps happening for them. They keep getting government money for their efforts, right? For supporting the Liberal campaign, and they will be rewarded handsomely with more money. CBC will get a promise by Mark Carney another $150 million of your tax dollars to give us unadulterated, unbiased news that's for every Canadian, right? That's what CBC is going to be getting on top of the $1.4 billion they already get. So they're excited. And all the other news outlets who get the $600 million between them all, they're pretty excited too. Because, if Pierre Poilievre was to win, he'd probably say, how about you just get your money through advertising like every other news agency has to do around the world, But no, not in Canada. Let's see here. So Northern Hillbilly says, I am so surprised. It'll change when the people awake. When is that? That's what I'd like to know. The new narrative for the sheeple to hate, and that's baby boomers. It's all their fault. Okay, so baby boomers, yeah, very much staunch liberals these days. Used to be conservative. They kind of switched gears to now being liberal. I don't know how all that transition took place over the years, but it is what it is today. And Judy, good morning to you. Vin, good morning to you. David, another morning under communism. Comrades, oh, it's going to get more communism for sure. It was interesting. One of the conservative, I forget her name. She used to be prominent in the Conservative Party, but she was there with Tom Mulcair, a former NDP leader, breaking it down on CTV. And, I listened to CBC already for an hour and a half in the car, and I couldn't take it anymore. I was going to hurl with just all of the spinning and all of the, you can just tell they're so excited for the Liberal win. And it's hard to hear journalists be like that. So I said, okay, maybe CTV is a little less so, but not so. So I watched CTV and it's just, they were just ecstatic, almost to the point of just elation over the fact that, the polls were going the way they were, and they just couldn't help themselves from being gleeful. It's just interesting. And so anyways, one of the conservative commentators there was saying about, well, now the NDP, the very socialist, somewhat communistic party, and the other girl was just, what? How dare you say that about the NDP? Whatever. And she goes, oh, no, sorry, just the new Democratic Party, you know what I mean? Just calling a spade to journalists, you just can't. They need to just, their narrative, this campaign was Donald Trump's bad. We need someone to fight Donald Trump. That's what it became. And they kept going back to that. We know who the real enemy is here, and it's Donald Trump. And I mean, give your head a shake. Can't you think for yourself? Is it really just Donald Trump? You got the Chinese ambassador for Canada saying, hey, we can partner with Canada now and take on Donald Trump. And we're all like, yay, let's partner with China and take on Donald Trump. You don't see where this is going? Like, you really don't see? Do you really want to partner with China to take on the United States? Is that really where you're at now? So you know, when David said, more communism. Good morning, another morning under communism, comrades. A lot of you go, oh, come on now. Come on. We're not communist. Well, we're headed there very quickly, faster than you can say communism. We're already very socialist, so socialist. It's really socialist, if you understand governance. And socialism leads to communism, which that's where we are going. And we'll make a case that Mark Carney, that's exactly what his policies are. Just wait, you'll see. And Hazel, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Belinda, good morning. The most powerful thing you can do right now is to be patient while things are unfolding. Veils are being lifted and exposure will follow. Hold the line. Triple heart emoji. Yeah, when you hit that iceberg, kind of hard not to know you hit an iceberg. And Vin, well, Canadians licking the cheese off the mousetrap today. Yeah, it's a good analogy, actually. And Pat, good, bad morning. Fingers, peace sign. Good morning, Pat. Thanks for being on. I heard that the early votes have yet to be counted. Really? They called the election before even early. They called the election early. Sound familiar? Really? The early votes weren't counted? Are they still in the people's houses? Because they got to take the votes home, right? Remember that? The guy had the video and showing everybody taking the boxes home. And they were supposed to be in bags and supposed to be following all these protocols, but they weren't. They were just loading them in their vehicles, taking them home after early voting, and then they're supposed to bring them back on election day. So do we have videos of them bringing them back? I don't know. Where are these votes? So Denise says, the day of the election, I said it was rigged. It's the prosecution way. Good, got that. And he already manifested it before it happened. And the way they spoke about it, about what he's doing, it's not that he wins, it's just that he's doing it. They were talking like he won before he won, basically, is what you're saying. And it's true. They were basically talking like he won the whole time. And Miles says, cheer up, everyone, and breathe. Enjoy your morning. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And Denise, blessings, everyone. Thanks for being on. Nana, good morning to you. I cannot believe people want more of the same crap. Yeah, they do. Oh, and they want it worse. Oh, and they're going to get it worse. It's funny, actually. It is funny. Been dished up for the last 10 years. Sheeple. Yeah, oh no, we're going to get it. Everyone's getting it. It's Christmas time. So the people grooming our children, says diversity stays. The ESG is staying. Everything we wanted gone is going to double. Yes, all the initiatives of the Liberal government that we've had for the last 10 years, we're going to see more of, and we're going to get it hard and fast. Vin says his wife it was a voting supervisor, and they didn't finish counting until 11:30 last night. Not sure how the CBC announced the Liberal win before 8 p.m. last night. Time zones were removed. Oh yeah, just as even BC just closed And they announced the Liberal win right away. Yeah. Just want to announce Mark Carney has won. Pierre was ballot assassinated in his riding. Elections Canada did it, allowing 91 candidates on his ballot, for sure. That needs to be investigated, obviously. And how did he even allow that as the leader of the Conservatives? That should have been nipped in the bud, like even before it happened. That should not have been allowed to happen. Shirley, good morning. Sudbury, wishing everybody a safe, happy, and blessed day. Many emojis there. Good morning to you, Shirley. And Hazel, I'm considering moving out of Canada. You're not the only one. For sure. And Brian Johnston here, Stockholm Syndrome. For some reason, those being oppressed want it to continue. This is, a point I wanted to make for some time here. I felt like an abused spouse, and I think that's what we are as Canadians. We're like the abused spouse kind of thing. And the government is our spouse. And, I guess we just expect to be abused and we don't know how to get out of our abuse, and we keep voting in our abusers. It's like, I don't know. It's, that's the way I feel. Tax to the hilt, 65% of my income goes to taxes. It's, and that is the right calculation, by the way, when it's all said and done. When you factor in your income tax, you factor in the taxes taken off your check, you factor in the taxes you pay when you go out to buy things, it's 65% of your income is tax. And the other 35%, now you get to pay your rent, your groceries, your car payments, and everything else on top of it. It's just 65% tax. It just is what it is. And I guess we love our abuser, and we're just going to keep it going. Yeah, we definitely need to laugh. Lurleen, good morning to you. And Vin says, those same people removed people from the Liberal leadership race. Writing is on the wall. Yeah, I went to Chat GPT. I was like, tell me every single Liberal MP that resigned over the course of the last 10 years and said they weren't going to run again and stuff. It was like almost 30 of them over the last, decade. And that's telling, you know what I mean? There's something wrong there. And then all of the scandals, I guess the scandals didn't get enough media attention in the mainstream media. I wonder why they didn't, right? Because if you're being paid by the government to hold them accountable for all their many, criminal activities that they're doing, as if you're going to call them out on it. If I'm getting $600 million or $1.4 billion, as if I'm going to call them out on stuff. Good morning, Marianne from Barrie. Liked and shared, as usual. Miles says, even last night in his speech, Carney warns us there are some tough times ahead. Quite the optimist. You know who he reminds me of? Dracula. I can easily see him dressed up as Dracula for Halloween. He already looks like Dracula to me. It is what it is. It's just, that's not even me trying to put him down or anything. I just think he looks like Dracula. That's just me. I don't know. Denise, if you have somewhere to go, you should leave Canada. It's going to get very ugly in North America, which we are a part of. And the Salafate has been baby stepping around our soil. Now giant steps are to come. Sorry if I can't pronounce that word again. Caliphate. I know we talked about that the other day as well. Now, Larry, good morning to you. Sudbury is corrupt because the rallies here were unbelievable for the Conservatives. And the rally for the Liberal was a joke. But the Liberals were a joke. What the hell is going on? I think this was designed by the United States so they can take our country. Okay, all this speculation is going to come around. I'm just waiting for the dust to settle to see All the good, bad, and the ugly. It's too early to tell here all of the things, all the nuances, all the things that took place, all of the ways that the voting was done, people bringing ballots home from the early voting. Some are saying they weren't even counted yet. Were they brought back to the voting stations? We don't even know. What happened to these votes that people took home? Should they even be allowed to be taken home? That should be the question in the first place. Why? Why couldn't they just be kept at the voting stations securely locked up? I don't know. They had to be taken home. What's up with that? Today marks the 50th anniversary of Monty Python's Holy Grail. Well, trying to keep the humor going. That's much appreciated. Welcome to Communist Canada. This is Marianne. I can literally say Canadians that voted for what we just went through with the same government. How dumb they are. Correct. Has nothing to do with the United States. Canada's infiltrated. There's a caliphate in our country. Okay, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's not just Canada. It's all sovereign countries. Trump's one of the only leaders who's sending them away and closing his borders to them while we open our borders and we invite more in because the citizens of this country are F and then asterisk weak. We know what you meant there. Marianne says, yep, that election showed a coup of our country live. Sad day. Okay, at least Marc Serré was taken out by conservative Jim Belanger in Sudbury East, Manitoulin Nickel Belt yesterday. That is true. So some of our headlines here, right? So where's the Jim Belanger from the Sudbury Star? Jim Belanger scores rare conservative win in the Sudbury area as Zilda Mann did the first MP of the new Sudbury East Manitoulin Nickel Belt riding, ousting Liberal Marc Serré. And Marc Serré said, I'm holding my head up high. Three-term Liberal MP Marc Serré concedes defeat to Jim Belanger. Belanger's conservative win, this is from Sudbury.com now, makes political history in the region. First time in more than 70 years that a conservative has won in an area of the province that was traditionally held by Liberals or New Democrats. The next headline from Sudbury.com, Jagmeet Singh loses his seat, resigns as disastrous night for the NDP. But the NDP leader is still hopeful for the future of his movement. What movement would that be, right? Look into that, why he would even use that terminology of movement, solidarity. You know, it's, anyways, it is what it is. So this is the problem that happened with, okay, so the news this morning says Pierre lost his seat. Okay, well, that'll be interesting. And I'm sure he's going to come back with, the idea of what took place in his riding and say, obviously, that wasn't proper to have 91 people on a ballot. And that's going to be looked into. And then they're probably going to do something. And then it's just going to distract us for a while and stuff. And we'll be all over that. And so Nancy says it's all fixed. And I'm sure you're not the only one who thinks that way. So let's kind of break it down through some of the different points of view that I kind of collected yesterday while I was, trying to have ways to, break it down for us. So just a bit of humor first. This is a phone call, Chrystia Freeland to Justin Trudeau in an animated little skit here. See here as soon as we...
Hey, Justin. Our evil plan to rule Canada forever is almost complete. Let me be clear. Shutting down the government to install Carney was so smart. Are you sure it was your idea?
Well, Christia, President Xi's team may have had a hand in that. Yeah, it's amazing how easy it was and only cost $150 million to CBC. I hear Rosie Barton is looking at a new extra-wide yacht already.
Let me be clear, Justin. It was a great plan to use Trump to get all the morons in Canada to completely overlook our last 10 years of epic incompetence. Who would have imagined Canadians were that dumb?
Well, we really have to thank the liberal boomers who stay glued to CBC all day, and also the young dummies that like to complain but are too lazy to go vote. Well, Christia, I gotta run. I'm planning all my private jet trips for the position of Minister of Disappearing Money that Mark created for me. Just imagine I can do what I did for the last 10 years for the next 4 years. Peace out, bitches.
So there you go. A little bit of humor, you know, a little bit of humor can't hurt, no matter what side of the fence or whatever your perspective is. Humor can never hurt, right? So a little bit of that for all y'all this morning, trying to keep it a little bit light before we get into a little bit of some more facts, I guess you can say, on factual things. And someone did point out, I believe it was Marianne, that the Elections Canada website was down early on in the election last night. And I thought, why is Elections Canada website down? And good morning, Anna. Thanks for being on. OMG, boomers were never conservative. They always voted for the Liberals or the NDP as unionists. Okay, I can kind of see that too. So let's see here. So now what can we expect from Mark Carney? We're just going to go through some of our videos here that we have to kind of explain what we're going to expect.
Saying you'll own nothing and be happy sounds crazy, right? Until you take a closer look at Mark Carney's plan for Canada. In his blueprint, Canada Strong, the Liberals lay out a $225 billion strategy to dramatically expand government ownership and control over housing, data centers, energy, critical minerals, digital tech, and even artificial intelligence. The Liberals' plan explicitly states that more than half of its incremental expenditure over the next 4 years will be capital related. Now, that might sound like typical budgetary language, but it's actually the key to understanding what's really going on here. So let me lay this out. The distinction between a capital and operating expense is very important in this context. Operating expenses are things like social program funding, grants, or salaries. They result in zero ownership, whereas capital expenses, or CapEx, is the money a government or business spends on acquiring, upgrading, or maintaining its assets. So these are things that will go on the government's balance sheet, just like Mark Carney said, because again, they own or control them. So when the Liberals say that over 50% of new spending is capital, what they're telling you is, we're not just funding programs, we're building assets and we're keeping them. And according to this new plan, 64.2% of federal spending will fall under capital expenses. This means the government will be expanding its state control by 100% more than in 2021. In other words, this is an expansion of state control and ownership unlike anything we've ever seen. Now, let's take a closer look at where this capital is going and what it implies. We'll start with housing. Carney wants to pump $35 billion into prefab and affordable homes. This fund and these projects would be managed by Build Canada Homes, a proposed government agency. Because this is listed as a capital expense, the government will own or control significant housing stock, especially if it's built on federal land. Why is this a problem? When the government owns the homes, they control the terms, who gets to live where, and what the rent is, maybe even what views you're allowed to express. And this is not a stretch. Public housing policies have been used to enforce social compliance in other parts of the world, and Canada is clearly not immune to tyranny. Next up is digital infrastructure and AI. Carney proposes funding data centers, high-speed communication networks, and AI infrastructure, including partnerships with the private sector. The plan also mentions investments in digital supply chain solutions and rural broadband, so internet. The implication? Government ownership of data centers or digital networks would make the state a major force in tech infrastructure with control over critical digital assets. If the government owns the AI systems, data centers, and digital networks, they're not just delivering the service, they're collecting the data. That's a surveillance state in the making. Add in centralized digital ID or financial systems, and access to basic services could one day depend on political alignment or ideological compliance. Once again, they have frozen our bank accounts for ideological reasons, so this is not hyperbole. Now on to clean energy and critical minerals. Carney wants to make investments in critical mineral projects, electric vehicle charging networks, and clean energy infrastructure. While some projects may involve private partnerships, government-funded infrastructure like EV charging stations, energy grids, and even stakes in mining projects would remain on the public balance sheet. Why is this a bad trend? If the state owns the grid and clean energy infrastructure, it ultimately gets to decide where the power flows and where it doesn't. If you want to push citizens towards certain behaviors, just control their access to heat, fuel, or electricity. Think carbon rationing or smart meters linked to a social credit style system. And let's be honest, this would make it a whole lot easier to force people into 15-minute cities. And for anyone who still believes this is just benevolence, the plan does not clarify whether these assets will be privatized, leased out, or kept under permanent state control, which pretty much wipes out the only charitable interpretation this strategy had going for it. According to Mark Carney's own numbers, over 50% of new spending is capital related, so this isn't just about stimulus. It's about a massive state footprint. Unfortunately, it does get a little worse, so bear with me here. The Liberals claim that their $225 billion in deficit spending will trigger $500 billion in private investment, which sounds nice until you check their own math. Their fiscal multipliers range from 0.7 to 1.2, meaning these investments may not even pay for themselves, especially not in a shaky economy with US tariffs. So what does this mean? It means that more tax dollars will need to be pumped into all of these projects to make up for the lack of private investment, which means more state assets and even more government control. Given Carney's experience in finance and a clear error in their own math, I might suggest this isn't a miscalculation, but rather the actual plan. Now, some people might argue that government control isn't that big a deal or it won't be that expansive, but the truth is, dependency equals control. The more basic needs the government provides, the more power it has to dictate your life. When the state is your landlord, energy provider, and data gatekeeper, you're not just a citizen, you're a dependent, and dependence can be controlled. Would you openly criticize a government that controls your home, your internet, and your electricity? That owns infrastructure you rely on to live, work, and speak? Even if no laws are passed, the threat of retaliation is enough to keep people quiet and under control. Think self-censorship through COVID, and my point is pretty well made. The Liberals won't say it out loud, but here's the truth. If they don't intend to expand state control over housing, AI, and infrastructure, they wouldn't be tracking these as capital expenses. It's that simple. So whether you believe this is good, bad, or somewhere in between, they are intentionally expanding state control over our nation and our lives. Period. Remember that old saying, you'll own nothing and be happy? Sounds crazy, right? Until you take a closer look at Mark Carney's plan for Canada. In his blueprint, Canada Strong, the Liberals lay out a $225 billion strategy to dramatically expand government ownership and control over housing, data centers, energy, critical minerals, digital tech, and even artificial intelligence.
And yeah, so again, we've already voted him in. People weren't listening to this before. And we are now, I guess, just going to educate people as to what you can expect in the future that we're all going to get. And the more we go towards a full-on, probably pretty quickly, more China-like structure, because they've come out and said the United States is the enemy. Everything that stands for the United States is the enemy, right? China is the real new model. It's always been the model with these people, but now we're actually going to go into it. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It is just what it is, right? So here's the real Mark Carney. If you haven't heard about the real Mark Carney, this is him, just Whitney Webb, sorry, kind of breaks it down for us here. And again, this is just education for those, if you voted for Carney and you're like, ha, conservatives. Well, just listen up now. Now you can listen, because you can rest assured that this is your new leader that you don't even know really who they are, right? Who you voted for. But you can know now, at least, who your new leader is, who you
Mark Carney isn't stepping into power to protect Canadian sovereignty. He's here to dissolve it. This is not an elected leader with a mandate from the people. This is a banker groomed by global institutions, positioned at the helm of the most powerful central banks in the West, and now parachuted into Canada's top office in the middle of an engineered crisis. Carney was governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 crash. Then he was handed the top job at the Bank of England, becoming the first non-Brit to hold that position in over 3 centuries. That wasn't a promotion. That was placement. A signal to the global financial elite that Carney wasn't just one of them. He was ready for the next phase of the project. And that project is global governance, technocratic control, a world where countries exist in name, but real decisions are made by unelected bureaucrats, asset managers, and central banks. Carney has never hidden his loyalties. He's a key figure within the World Economic Forum, a trusted architect of Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. He doesn't just support stakeholder capitalism, he helped design its playbook. He spent the last several years preparing the framework for an economic transition that replaces national interest with global compliance, freedom with surveillance, and sovereignty with dependency. Carney's language is the same coded language used by every WEF loyalist: sustainability, resilience, inclusion, and climate finance. But decode that language and the reality is much darker. What they call climate finance is the commodification of nature, turning forests, oceans, carbon footprints, and even your personal behavior into financial instruments to be tracked, traded, and controlled. It's not about protecting the environment. It's about creating a new asset class for the elite. And once human behavior becomes an asset, it can also become a liability, something to be taxed, fined, or restricted. This is Carney's real vision for Canada, not protection from Trump, but deeper integration into a technocratic system designed in Davos and enforced through digital chains. He is a leading proponent of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which are being marketed as efficient and modern, but are, in fact, tools of unprecedented control. Programmable money means conditional money. Money that can be restricted based on who you are, where you are, what you say, or how you behave. Pair that with digital ID systems, biometric tracking, and algorithmic decision-making, and the result is a digital prison where your ability to participate in society depends on your willingness to comply with the demands of unelected global institutions. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is openly admitted policy. Carney has published it. The WEF has published it. The Bank for International Settlements has published it. What they need now is public consent, or at the very least, public submission.
Which they just received. So thanks to you, liberal voters, this is what we're going to get, hard and fast. So instead of slow and painful, I guess you can say, it's hard and fast. Maybe it's better to get it over with quickly, because no matter what, they're not going to stop until they got what they're totally, focused on getting. So this is Carney talking about himself, right? He was in Sault Ste. Marie. He lays it out himself. You're going, oh, conspiracy theory. He would never do that. He would never just do those things or whatever, right? So here's him in his own words saying how he's going to just lay it out and give it to you. So Mark Carney, take it away from the horse's mouth.
Have three aspects of our climate plan that are relevant here. One is there is an industrial carbon price, but the question is what happens with the proceeds from that carbon price, and to what extent is it reinvested in the industry? And we're literally about to see the reality of that as the electric car line comes on.
We're literally about to see the reality of that. You hear what he said? And you are literally about to see the reality of that.
And the 70% reduction in carbon that comes from that through SIF investments, partnerships, Canada Infrastructure partnerships with the province of Ontario, and of course the
partnerships with China.
The drive of the workers and the innovation here at Algoma. So that's an example. That's one example. The second example, which is something we've also committed to, Alex, which is as our businesses, as our big industry decarbonize, we don't want foreign steel coming here that's high carbon, right? From Asia, from America. So we will have a carbon border adjustment mechanism that prevents that from happening and puts them in a stronger position. So that's the second. And then the third aspect is we have this carbon market that's in place, and we have an opportunity so that the large polluters, on the marginal reductions that they make, that they can pay for.
We have a carbon market. Well, guess who designed that market? Yours truly, Mark Carney. He designed the carbon market that he's talking about that we have. And now he's going to implement it.
For people's climate smart choices. It will end up being a more efficient market for them. The government will stand in the middle and make sure that people have clear incentives, and if we are elected, we will put this. Have
Oh, and now he
two
is
aspects,
elected.
3 aspects of our climate.
There was 2, but now there's 3. We have 2 aspects. We have 3 aspects. He wasn't even sure how many aspects he actually has, but apparently there are 3. So we can be rest assured that we're going to get it. So what else are we going to get here? Why are we getting it? So Mark Carney, as it goes to the next video, explained by our good friend David from Moose on the Loose, shows his conflicts of interest and how he's actually making millions and millions and millions of dollars because he is conflicted. And this new carbon economy that he talks about, this carbon market that he was actually the architect of, he gets to make money privately through all of these initiatives as he makes them laws in not only the world, but now as a prime minister of a country, definitely in Canada. So let's see the connections here.
Carney was in charge of. So essentially Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau have set this up. So they forced our entire country down this path, with Brookfield getting ready to capture all the money that comes in when they force carbon credits on all of us. So any company that's not super eco and green, they'll have to buy carbon credits from a company like Brookfield that produces them. And since Brookfield is the leader in this space, they will make hand over fist cash on all of this. They're going to make a fortune on this. That's what I think their plan is here. That's what I think's going on. And that's why Mark Carney won't disclose what his financial interests are, won't disclose what his assets are. They're in a blind trust. I don't know what's in there. I have no idea. Who's controlling his blind trust? His buddy from Goldman Sachs? Who's controlling it? Is it Bruce Flatt? So after seeing all of this, if we go to Mark Carney's SEC reporting here, coming directly from the Security and Exchange Commissions in America, as it says here, Mark Carney on the side. So he's got 209,000 shares of Brookfield at $35. These are stock options, so he can buy it at this price. He's also got 200,000 shares at a strike price of $40, which currently, if you were to buy them and sell them, you would get $6.8 million profit. That's profit if you were just to buy them and sell them. So if he pushes forward this net zero agenda and this whole carbon capture agenda and jacks up Brookfield's earnings big time, and their stock goes from $50 US to 100 to 150 to 200 to 500. Not only these stock options go way up in value, which what I can tell from other journalists are likely the options he got when he joined Brookfield. These were given to him as a bonus. He's likely bought a whole bunch of shares on top of this. He might have 10 million, 20 million, 50, 100 million dollars of shares in Brookfield as well as this. This is the reason why we need to know what he's invested in. What stocks does he have? Does he have an extra 100,000 shares in Brookfield, 1 million shares, 10 million shares in Brookfield? Because this reeks of conflict of interest. This is beyond conflict of interest. In uncovered audio, Mark Carney admits that massive institutions like his firm Brookfield are promoting radical net zero policies not to save the planet, but to make a lot of money off of this. So instead of playing the clip off of here, let's play it off of the source, which comes from this 54-minute video. I'm going to play a little bit extra than what he had queued up there.
That market is, for all the headlines, is tiny. I mean, it's measured in the hundreds of millions of dollars. In a true transition, this is a $100 billion a year market. And so there's a big process that's underway to put in place the plumbing and the governance, the standards for a global market in carbon offsets, which we will see move forward probably by the end of the year. So that's a pretty exciting development. Third thing, and I'll stop on this, which is for the financial institutions themselves, what's their trajectory? What's their carbon footprint of the people they're investing in or lending to? And how do they expect to manage that going forward? Do they have a transition towards net zero? How much sustainable finance, said another way, are they going to do? And as I mentioned a moment ago, we have some of the world's biggest institutions, many of which are headquartered in the United States, who voluntarily stood up and said, we're going to manage to net zero by 2050. Actually, we're going to have specific targets by 2025 and 2030, so you can measure the short term. And they don't say this quite as loudly, but what they're also saying and thinking, and we're going to make a lot of money off of this, because actually this is the way the world's headed. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when we get there, but to be carbon competitive is going to be value creating.
Mark Carney has more conflicts of interest than probably every other politician in Parliament combined. Mark Carney cannot be the next Prime Minister of Canada.
David, could you look in the cabinet for the TV remote? My leg's hurting something awful.
There you go. As the next video goes on and plays. So I'm really glad some of our liberal friends are kind of joining us now. I kind of had a feeling that would happen, as they would feel more emboldened with the results of the election, which I'm really great for, because we need more alternate views and things coming in on the show. And I kind of miss some of our hecklers and stuff that we had before. I really liked one of my old friends who came on here. And, you know, it's interesting how people have to result in name calling, where they're saying, where are you getting these facts from? As you're just, the facts are being unfolded as they say, where are you getting these facts? The very person saying the facts are saying what websites they went to. On this website, it says this. On this year and this company, there's a whole pie chart making all the links for somebody, but still somebody is so absolutely, blinded in a fog of something that they're unable to hear. They have ears to hear, but they can't hear. Those who have ears to hear can hear, right? But you have ears, but yet you can't hear. You have eyes, but yet you can't see what's blatantly right there in front of you and me. And it's really interesting. It's like a social experiment kind of thing, where there's something being said that's true, and then someone says, where are you getting this from? I've never heard such craziness. But the very person is saying just websites and names of companies and dates, and all the facts are there for you to see. And then they result in name calling. They call you nut bars and you've gone off the rails. You're a quack. They just have to say that because they can't back up what they're saying with facts. They can't say, no, Mark Carney is not the CEO or the leader of Brookfield. He's not making money off these investments, of this blind trust. He has no conflict of interest in making it impossible to get the oil out of the ground in Canada and then buy pipelines in the United States and make millions of dollars off that. He doesn't know, but they're not able to do that. They can't do that because they don't have facts. All they have to back them up is mainstream media propaganda that they turn on and they feel, oh, good. Whew, I'm not crazy. The mainstream media is telling me exactly what to believe, because they won't look into it themselves. And so when you start looking into it yourself and become your own kind of boss of your own mind, and you don't allow other people to take up rent in there, and you think for yourself, and you don't assume anything. Always question your assumptions, right? Whatever you assume. And like a real scientist of life, is you question everything. You don't take at face value whatever's given to you. And you become liberated. You become liberated because you understand, for yourself what's true. You don't know because the mainstream media, which in fact is paid off by our federal government. So why would they tell you anything other than something that's favorable for the federal government? Honestly, like, you just got to tell yourself, just give your head a shake, and just, why would you at least not question mainstream media? So you got to listen to it. I listen to it every day. I listen to CBC more than some of our more far left people, or trolls, if you call them that, name callers, just people that don't come on to have a really good, respectful discussion. They come on just to call people names and throw accusations, just throw things that are very condescending out there, rather than just give facts and have a respectful conversation. You remember back in high school or school, you could have a debate. You remember those days? You actually debated. You actually talked about two sides of something. You know how court works, where there's one lawyer and there's another lawyer, and you're able to question, and you think the guy's guilty when you listen to one side, and then the other guy talks, and then you're like, wait a minute, maybe he's not guilty, And it's really refreshing to be able to look at all sides. And as you look at things you'll never see in mainstream videos we talk about on this show, on mainstream media, it's the things, why aren't they covering these things? Like, why can't they cover them? That's what we're paying them for, to do this, to keep our government honest, right? To actually do real journalism. Does Mark Carney have conflicts of interest? And if he does, how does he have conflicts of interest? And this blind trust, what's in the blind trust? Is he making money off policies he's making on behalf of Canadians? Is he enriching himself personally by influencing policy, and now right in the driver's seat of policy? in a country where then he can make investments based on the policies he's making and make money himself? Is that the case? We just need to know. And if it's not, someone like yourself, James, all you have to do is show me how he's not conflicted. Like, show me what's in the blind trust. Show me how he's not benefiting from these policies, right? So instead of name calling and making slurs and things like that, just actually do some research, and you can send your research. Don't just send me an article from CBC, because that's not really research. Do your own research, like look into the very things that he's being accused of, which is, you'll find it liberating. I know, especially know your personality. You'll feel free. You'll feel like, wow, where was I all my life? I actually don't feel like I'm in some kind of fog. You actually understand things for yourself because you are a very inquisitive person, and you really do like to know the truth at the end of the day. And so it's really great to understand and know things for yourself, and not just because mainstream media is telling it to you. And like, let's say you were living in China, which is going to get like that in Canada, and you were to listen to the state-run media and you believed everything they said. We outside of China can see, wait a minute, this is state-run media. That's propaganda, right? But can we see it if it's in our own country? Can we recognize that? And what is propaganda? And do they practice propaganda? What do you understand? Do you know what propaganda is? And if a government was to pay your salary and give you $1.4 billion, would you have a tendency to possibly, speak on their behalf, or want to not hold them accountable so you can keep the gravy train running? And you have another politician saying, hey, he's going to defund us. Why would we then go out and be unbiased if that other guy wins and now we don't have a job anymore, possibly, right? So how could you be unbiased with that? Like, it's just, to me, it's common sense. You just can't be. So I think we need a little more common sense in our world, and I will go out and I will do my best to try and find the truth of things, get to the bottom of things, what a real journalist should be doing. But our journalism in Canada has kind of gone down the toilet. And so you have to take people like us who do it on the side and do it just because they're passionate about it and they're just inquisitive and they just want to get to the bottom of things and get the truth out there. And we really appreciate all you guys for being on today. Thank you very much. We'll be back same time, same place, on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. So we'll break it down a little bit more as we know more information as it's coming out after the election. And remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.